Well, how's it going, everybody? The Meathead back at you with another video. Today we are actually in a way different area than I'm used to riding. We're up in central Minnesota. I was up for a wedding, sister-in-law's wedding now. Today we're going to talk about something that is kind of a much more sensitive subject, especially among motorcycle riders, and it's what I like to call near misses, crashes, and accidents, and how I have recovered from many near misses and even a couple of crashes. This is mainly a lot to do with like the mental stigma of how I came back and still got back in the saddle after crashes and some close calls that could have been both deadly or, you know, detrimental to me ever riding a motorcycle again. So I'll get into it. So the reason why I want to talk about this subject in this video is because I actually had a really scary incident happen to me just yesterday as I was riding the bike on this road. I'll take you by the spot. What ended up happening was what I would call, and what a lot of people would call, target fixation. So I ended up getting my eyes locked in on like the edge of the road, and I didn't take into account where the curve was going and what the speed I was at. So I was coming in at like, I want to say 55 or 60 miles an hour, and the curve itself was a 30 mile an hour recommended speed. Now normally I've negotiated 30 mile an hour corners many times in my life. Because of the fact that I wasn't paying attention to where my speed was at, and I was too busy focused in on the edge of the road, I ended up way on the outside of the curve than where I should have been, and I basically was headed right towards the edge of the road, and I had to make a decision, and the decision I made was to straighten up, get on my brakes, and try to slow down. And I didn't drop the bike, did not go over, didn't crash the bike, didn't fall off the bike, didn't do anything other than ended up in the grass. Now, a lot of you might say, well, that's good, you never crashed, that's all right. But of course, my anxiety night, I was like, man, that could have been really bad. Like, Zach, if that was a lake like we just passed through right there at the corner, I would have been in the water. Or, you know, if that was out in the Black Hills that happened, man, I would have been over a cliff and I'd be dead. And that's the kind of mentality that we often, I think, as motorcyclists get ingrained in our mind, is that, like, it's hard to be positive when something like that happens. And I wasn't very positive about it at first either. You know, after it happened, I was like, man, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I wasn't paying attention to the road like that. And that happened. But I started thinking about it, and it was like, Zach, you did the right thing. You know, yes, it could have been a lot worse if that was water or a cliffside or anything like that, but it wasn't. And had I tried to negotiate that corner at a higher speed, I probably would have low-sided. And that would have resulted in the bike still ending up over in the grass, but now it's tumbled and damaged. I probably would have had some pretty nasty road rash. And, you know, it would have been even worse if I had to try to negotiate that corner. And if there had been a lake there, you know, it would have been bad too. But if I had stayed straight and went into the water on a bike, at least the bike goes in the water, it gets submerged, it's probably going to be totaled, but I'm going to be easily able to get off the bike and be all right. So guess what I'm trying to come down to is how do I recover from crashes? And I'm pretty sure a lot of us have had near misses, potential near misses, potential accidents where either you got slightly injured or the bike got slightly damaged, or, you know, we've all had instances, I'm pretty sure, where we've been like, oh my god, I can't believe that I made it out of that alive. And, you know, if you dwell on the negative side of it, of especially the what ifs, like what if that had been a cliff, or what if that had been a gravel road, or, you know, that I was doing that on, what if I had hit, if you focus on the what ifs, you'll have a hard time. This is the corner, sorry, I'm changing the subject. This was the corner that I misnegotiated. So instead of being focused in the right speed at the right gear, I focused on that driveway right there and failed to negotiate that corner correctly. See, I went through there at 50 miles an hour. I've done it 100 times before. I've done slow corners like that before. But for whatever reason, I got fixated on that driveway, on that county road or whatever, and I went towards it. And I ended up in the grass. Now, again, like I said, the what ifs can get you down and whatnot, but the thing is if you get back up and get back on the saddle, you'll learn. As long as you walk away, and even if you walk away and the bike is destroyed, you still get to ride another day, and you can learn from it. You can be better. You can learn to get better. But if you don't get back on the bike, you don't get back in the saddle, you'll never learn, and you'll just accept the mentality that, oh, I just wasn't meant to ride, or I wasn't meant to do that. And it's like, everybody's meant to ride. You just can't let failure and fear drive you from not getting back on your bike. If you've been riding motorcycle long enough, you realize that it becomes not so much that you want to ride, it's because you have to ride for like your mental health and your mental stability, your sense of freedom and not being locked down in the monotony of everything. You know, I've had, like I said, a number of close calls in my past. I've had even worse calls than this. I've hit a car. Oh, those brakes sound like absolute trash. I've hit cars. I hit a car, rear-ended a car once, and it sucked. What I had to do after I hit that car, rear-ended that car, I had to take a look at what I did wrong. I have to do what I basically recommend to anybody after some sort of close call, a crash, an accident. Look outside of yourself and think about the situation as if you were watching somebody else perform that task and what you think they did wrong, okay? So, like for this most recent instance, what did I do wrong? I looked outside of myself and I said, well, I was riding rather aggressively for an area that I don't know. That's a big risk. Number two, I was not fully engaged in how I was riding. And that's part of to do with the aggressive nature of how I was riding. I was actually not paying attention to, one, the conditions of the road, how the condition of the bike. Like I was running unwarmed up tires. There's quite a number of gravel area where gravel was on the road. Like mentally, I was just too laid back. I wasn't as sharp as I needed to be. So all of those little things added up to me making that bad negotiation in that turn, that target fixation, and me having to go off into the grass and come to a stop and then get back on the road. You know, you gotta, I think the thing is, you gotta assess where you went wrong, how you're gonna do better, and make a plan to get better. You know, if you think that you were 100% in the right, like if you rear-ended somebody and it's like, oh, they were on their brakes way too early, the light was green and they didn't get going and I didn't have enough time, well, were you then not, you got to look at yourself like, was I not scanning far enough ahead? Was I too busy watching the light instead of the rear end of or the bumper of the car in front of me? You know, if you take the time and you actually look outside of yourself and look at what your faults were leading up to a crash, leading up to a near miss, then you can yourself become a better rider, and therefore you can last longer and stay on a motorcycle longer than actually dying in an accident. You know, for me personally, I've been riding again for 6 years now, and first year I rode on a motorcycle, I was gonna take an attempt to cross the highway that was super busy and came within, like, I want to say 5 feet of a semi truck going 60 miles an hour, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna turn around and go a different way because that was too close for me. And it really wasn't that close, but in my heart I felt like it was close. The next year I looped a wheelie on an F07. I got hurt, the bike got damaged a little bit. I learned that my skill set wasn't there yet to do that kind of stuff. Still isn't, that's why I haven't done it. 4th year of riding, I think, is I started with the F07, and then I got my Dyna. My Dyna, I had the, there's a guy out in the middle of the highway because he had hit something. Why he was out in the middle of the highway, totally stupid idea. I nearly clipped him on my bike. So that was a close call instant. Last year I rear-ended that guy on the road glide and had to fix up my front end, but I was all right, he was all right. His car really didn't get a lot of damage because I didn't hit him that hard. I hit him at like 20 miles an hour or something like that. But nonetheless, this year, hopefully it's just that, running off the road. You know, I've put over 8,000 miles on the bike this year, and I expect that there's going to be some close calls, there's going to be some butt-puckering moments, but, you know, I think that was the closest call to a major issue, a major incident, and I hope that that was my one for the year, and I'll just chalk it up at that, and I'll learn from it. And I think that's my biggest recommendation to anybody out there watching this right now, is if you do have a near miss here in the future or in the past, just remember that you're not defined by your failure. It's your only time you're defined by your failure is if you let that failure be permanent. Get back on your bike. Remember that you are alive and bikes are fixable, and that you can always ride again as long as you learn where you messed up and become a better rider because of it. And I hope that that helps you guys out of a tough spot. I hope if those words mean something to you and that you're able to get back on a bike even after 10 years of not riding. I hope that that inspires you to get back on two wheels and ride again, because once you're a motorcyclist, you're always a motorcyclist, no matter how long you've been out of the game. I still love and respect you, and I hope to see you out on the road again. Keep the shiny side up, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.